Hello everyone, my name is Gabby, and welcome back to another Dragon Ball Super review. This time reviewing episode 83. The gang convenes at Bulma's house to discuss who else to recruit for the Tournament of Power. With so many regulations, experience is going to be more valued over raw power here. But Vegeta, who has both, refuses to budge until his child is born. So Whis just waves his staff and makes the baby be born instantly. Problem solved! Her name is Bra, she's in the manga, and no, this isn't some sign that Super is suddenly going to become GT. There are 39 hours until the tournament and 6 more people to recruit. So, what did I like about this episode? Well, first of all, I did enjoy that they kind of spent a lot of this episode kind of explaining and justifying some of the choices they were going to make in terms of the characters who are going to participate in this tournament. I mean, I'll be honest, when I just originally saw this poster and stuff and saw that this tournament was happening, I wasn't really expecting some kind of explanation as to why these characters were going to be fighting in the first place. I was kind of more just expecting it was going to be a bit more like Resurrection F, that, whoever just happened to hear the call of the plot is going to go and fight, and it doesn't really need to be explained as to why there are some stronger characters and some weaker characters, and some people are left out and some aren't, and blah blah blah. But no, they spent this episode trying to explain why they chose these certain characters, in particular the fact that this is like the Tournament of Power is like a team battle where you've got to use a lot of strategy, so they're not necessarily going to use Goten and Trunks, because while they may be powerful, they don't have much experience, whereas someone like Muten Roshi is not necessarily that much powerful, but he's very experienced, and they definitely value that more. Basically, this episode covered a lot of the bases that I wasn't really expecting them to mention. Things like Goku actually mentioning Monica, and Beerus trying to think of an excuse as to why Monica couldn't come, because Goku doesn't know the truth about Monica yet. It also mentioning as to why the other planets in Universe 7 aren't participating, why it's just Earth. If you use the stuff that happened in the Frieza arc as kind of an excuse, honestly, a lot of the characters in Universe 7 are now really weird anomalies that kind of can't be repeated, and there probably aren't anyone else in Universe 7 who are powerful enough to be able to do something like that. That didn't necessarily have to be the case, but the fact that they are trying to justify things does make me feel like, even if they did come up with the characters they wanted to use first and came up with the explanations later, at least they are giving the explanations. At least they know that they can't just go around and just say whatever they want without anyone questioning it. And also, given that this entire episode was mainly about Bra's conception and everyone's reaction to her, I did find that very refreshing. I find it very refreshing that Dragon Ball Super has had things where we've been discussing and talking about babies. Because if you think about it, babies were kind of a bit of a taboo topic in the original Dragon Ball, in that they kind of didn't exist. If Toriyama wanted another Saiyan to move the plot forward, he would basically just make a time skip, and then at the end of the time skip, the child would appear suddenly old enough to be able to do something important to the story. Baby Trunks was basically the only exception, because he kind of had to exist when the androids showed up, basically to prove that future Trunks hadn't, time paradoxed himself out of existence. But yeah, besides that, generally they didn't really talk about babies. They didn't really have things talking about these young children and how everyone reacts to them, and so they got to do that in Super. They got to see everyone react to Bra and have all these different responses, and Vegeta holding her and Trunks holding her, and they're very cute moments, and it's really nice to see when Super does stuff like that, because yeah, in the original series they generally didn't. As for what I didn't like about this episode, I feel like I might be talking about this more for the next few episodes when we get to see more about it, but the one thing I realized about this episode is when Gohan and Goku are talking about Krillin and talking about whether he really stands a chance in the tournament, Gohan thinks that, the power difference between him and everyone else is just too high, he won't be able to do anything, but Goku adamantly kind of says that, Krillin could probably come up with some kind of technique or some way to be useful. I do find that idea, well, interesting, but also kind of a little strange. The idea that in this tournament, the characters, and especially the human characters, are going to make up for the massive power gap between them and their opponents by kind of using strategy and thinking cleverly and having special techniques and stuff. Because on the one hand, I really like this idea. I think this is a really fun idea. But on the other hand, I feel like the series itself has kind of spent the last 20 years hammering in the idea that, if your opponent is significantly stronger than you, it doesn't matter how much strategy you use or how many people come at them at once. You basically can't do much at all. The best you can hope to accomplish is buying time. I think the fight with Nappa in particular is a very good example of that. And I mean, I guess there's been some exceptions exceptions to these ideas, mainly related to Goku, but I do find it odd that now suddenly they seem to be kind of throwing out the idea of just like the fact that if you're too weak, you basically can't do anything even if you try really hard. I find it very strange that they seem to be implying that they're kind of just gonna throw that idea out the window so they can make Krillin and Tenshin Han and Muten Roshi do important things in this fight. I mean, don't get me wrong, if Super could choose any idea to throw out the window, that's one that I definitely wouldn't miss, because you could definitely come up with so much more interesting stories if you don't have that idea. But on the other hand, in an ideal world, you shouldn't have to throw established ideas out the window to justify what you want in the first place. These characters being able to do something in this tournament should feel organic. It shouldn't feel like you're throwing out established rules just so you can get what you want. So as for next episode, the next characters who Goku is going to recruit are going to be Krillin and 18, and seemingly both of them in the same episode, and it will be interesting. The fact is, Super did spend those two kind of slice of life episodes saying that Krillin was going to start training again, and Super actually acknowledged that this episode as well. So, if that's going to lead to something important, that would be actually kind of interesting. And, even if it doesn't lead to something important, Krillin's always a fun character, and I am definitely actually looking forward to seeing Krillin do stuff. And 18 as well. She hasn't gotten as much promotion, but hey, I definitely want to see her fight after what happened in Resurrection F. So that was Dragon Ball Super episode 83. If I say it was kind of a little bit of a nothing episode, I mean, I'm not really trying to insult it. Like, nothing really much of consequence happened, but I mean, there were some really nice slice of life interactions, and we got to see Baby Bra. Baby Bra is canon now, or at least she's in Super now. No one can complain about the fact that she doesn't exist. It's fun seeing Dad Vegeta and now like Big Brother Trunks and Mum Bulma. They didn't really do much particularly new with the ideas, but everything they put in and all those interactions they put in were very cute and very fun, and it is nice to see the idea that the stories is actually moving forward in some way, even if it is just because certain characters are now being born. Now that we know what's going on in the next few episodes, it definitely seems like that entire preliminary Zen exhibition match was really just there to give us kind of a taste of things to come, or like the taste of ideas as to what happens when all these characters are fighting to come. And the next few episodes seem like they're going to be kind of low consequence and also kind of just recruiting everyone individually to this tournament. And obviously, I hope it doesn't take too long. I feel like everyone's just kind of getting a bit impatient and just wanting the actual tournament to start. But hey, if we get more fun slice of life interactions, that'll always be fun. So this is Gabby, signing out, and I'll see you all next week. Bye guys!